Have a Hyundai or a Kia that makes this noise? Do you have a Hyundai or a Kia that makes a god-awful clicking sound when you turn the steering wheel back and forth? Feels like something's gonna break, fall apart, lock up, and it's pretty darn scary. Well, in this video, I'm gonna show you what that is and how to fix it. It's actually a little rubber bushing inside of the steering column where your motor is that deteriorates, and then you basically have motor and motor contact instead of a rubber bushing in between. It's not super difficult. In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace that, and it's very, very common. Before we get started, hit the like button, hit subscribe button, and hit the bell. You get notified of all my future content, which you definitely don't want to miss. Let's just jump right in. All right, first step, we got to get this panel off right here. So you're going to have a little cover here. It looks just like that. You're going to pop this off. You're also going to pop off this cover on the side, which is this guy here. All right, we're going to have with one screw here, and one screw and one screw. So two screws at the bottom and two screws on the side. You're going to pop it out away, okay? And as we look here, you'll see all the clips. The green is the clips. Okay, we're going to pop it away. You're going to have your OBD2 connector that goes through here. You just depress the tabs on each side, pops through. You're going to have a couple connectors here for your lights, for your traction control and for your dimmer, it looks like. Disconnect that stuff and get that out. Next up, you're going to have a metal bracket here, just like that. Just going to be 410s. You're going to go ahead and just take that out. Then we want to take this cover off right here. You're going to have 110 down here. You're going to turn it to the side, and you're going to have 110 there, and you're going to have another 10 over there. Then go ahead and disconnect those. Then we're going to go ahead and just take that out, and that comes out just like that. Next up, you want to disconnect the battery. Now, we're going to be disconnecting some airbag connectors, and it's not super imperative to disconnect the battery because, it's not likely that the airbags are going to go off, but it's one of those things that it's not worth taking a chance. You can disconnect the battery and you can be sure the airbags aren't going to go off, or you can leave it connected. And if they do go off, then it's going to cost you a lot of money. So disconnect the battery and be safe. All right, next up, we're going to disconnect all the electrical connectors because we need to drop this steering column down to get to the motor back here, and we want to get the harness out of the way. Now this connector right here for the clock spring, you're going to take a pocket screwdriver and right here, and you're going to pull this right here that way, and it's going to slide up against here, and once it gets all the way up there, your connector is going to back off and you can take it off. So it's just a little, you can see right there, you can see I'm lifting it up. That's how you disconnect that guy there. All right, you're going to have a few connectors. You're going to have ignition switch connectors. You're going to have a couple clips right here and right there. We're going to pop all that out, and once we get that done, that's out. Next up, we're going to go ahead and disconnect this connector here to get it out of the way. And then we need to undo the nut right here, right there, and the bolts back there. So we got to get the 4 done so we can drop the column down. Also want to take out this floor vent here. This just sits over here. I took it out already, but it just kind of sits like that. And you're going to have one 10 milli or Phillips head right there. Get that out because that sticks below the column. So normally I just drop the steering column down on the floor and I do the repair. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and take it out. It's actually easier to take it out because all you have is you have a 14 millimeter bolt right there for your steering column coupler. And you're going to undo that bolt and slide that off. Then we're just going to have a couple bolts, a couple nuts. We're going to have a connector on the right. We're going to have 2 bolts up there. The back bolts are going to be, or actually I guess the most forward ones are going to be bolts, and the 2 in the front towards the steering wheel are 2 nuts. So you're going to undo that coupler, make sure all your connectors are undone. You're going to undo the 2 12s or the 4 12s. That connector right there, you need to undo that. That's going to be pulling, and then we can slide the column out. So on this model, it's easier to just take the column out because there's not a lot left to hold it up. So you're going to have your steering shaft here. You have to turn the steering wheel 180 degrees so it's upside down like this. You're going to have a 14 mil bolt right here for the steering coupler. It's going to pull right off. You're going to have a couple connectors here. You're going to have a small connector here that comes from above. You're going to have a harness that comes through underneath here that clips on here. You're going to take those off. Then all you do is you rotate this backside like this, and then you slip the column right out. And now you can see we have it out. And now we need to take off this motor here, these bolts right here, these big Torx. So we're going to go ahead and disconnect this connector here because this goes into this motor. And we're going to undo these three, and they are T30s. So we're going to take a T30. You're going to take 3 of these out. Now, I have this connector disconnected. This connector is not disconnected because I have a clip here. So I'm just going to lay this to the side.
Take out the 3 large screws and not the 3 small ones. The 3 small ones hold the motor together.
All right, now that we have that off, go ahead and take a look here. And look at that. So now let's look at what it's supposed to look like. So here's what we have left. That's what we have left. Let's see what it's supposed to look like. That's what it's supposed to look like. So that's all the pieces in there. So this is what was left. So now we got to get all that cleaned up. All right, so all you're going to have to do is wiggle the motor, and the motor's going to pull right off, and it's going to set to the side. Now you can see we have these four points on the motor, and we have these 4 points here. Well, this is what's supposed to be in there. Like that, right? And then the other points go in the missing ones. Like that. This is what was left. Where'd the piece go? Here's what was left right there. So we have all this debris we got to clean out. Got to clean all this out, clean that off, put the new piece on, and then put the motor back on. All right, let's get this cleaned up. I'm going to take all these pieces here. And it's rubber, so it's kind of sticky. Some of it's like sticks to it. And we're going to get an air nozzle in here, and we're going to blow this out. You can see the rubber that's stuck in here. So we're going to wipe all this away, get all this cleaned out. Air nozzle. All right, let's go and spray this out. And of course, I'm still going to wipe out all the crap. You can see there's still like the other pieces of rubber that are stuck in here because of the heat. So we're going to get all this cleaned out. All right, show you when I'm done. All right, so I just took a wire brush and it just kind of wired out all of the old nasty. So now we're going to go ahead and put this piece in. We'll push it in like that. We're going to take our motor, and our motor is going to go back in the same position that it was in.
So while you're doing this job, you're going to notice that your gears are going to turn. So the gear in the column, that one right there, that one is attached to your steering wheel. So when you turn that, your steering wheel turns. Doesn't really make that much of a difference as long as you don't turn it a lot, because your steering coupler that your steering shaft that we disconnected that goes down under the car, that one has a notch in it where the bolt goes. So it only goes one way. But you don't want to turn the gear too much because you don't want to turn the steering wheel. And it's going to set in just like that.
And now that we got it back in, we're going to turn it and put these bolts back in. And it's aluminum, so you don't need to go super tight. Just going to go snug. Like that. Like that. And then I'm going to hand tighten it just to be safe. Take a little ratchet here. It's going to go by hand. And now we're tight. So now we need to reconnect the motor here. Okay. And now we need to put it back in the car and rehook everything up. All right. Now we are going to put the column back in the car. We want to make sure not to twist the steering wheel. Ugh. Now we do have to twist the motor this way to get it up and around inside here. So
it's better to take the plastic piece that's hanging down right there and just get a bungee across the dash, bungee it up to the headliner, to the sun visor, whatever you got to do, because that turns out to be a pain in my butt. So we're going to roll this in. Like I said, the motor rolls in. You got to roll it up and over the now it looks like it's the top, but it's actually what's on the right side. And there's also a harness hanging down in the back that the motor has to go up and over that you can't see because of that darn plastic piece that's hanging down. Kind of a pain in the butt because you really don't want the steering wheel to move either. So you got to hold the steering wheel while you move the column, and hopefully we can get this to sit up on top. There we go. And now the motor is going to go up and over, and you're going to have two studs. We're going to set the column on the studs, and we need to get the nuts on to hold it up in place. Once we get the nuts up, we're going to go ahead and put those on, and then we can wiggle it around to get the bolts in the back. Now, it's better to have like an extension with a deep socket ready to go, so that way you can kind of use like a little gun, and you can zap it up to make it faster and quicker than doing it by hand. However, these nuts spin up pretty fast and pretty easy by hand. And so you can see here, I'm trying to put the bolts in. It's not up in the back, so the bolts aren't going to go in. But if I had had an extension with a socket, I probably could have wobbled the bolt around and got it to go up in there a little bit easier. And instead, I have to go over and get tools because I was not prepared. So really 1/4 inch is what you want, because you could take a 1/4 inch little zap gun, little Milwaukee, and you can just run the bolts up and the gun will push them up. And it's 1/4 inch, so it's not like a ton of torque. If it's a ton of torque and your bolt's crooked, then you could destroy the threads really fast and really easy, much faster and much easier than if you had had a 1/4 inch, because a 1/4 inch doesn't have as much torque.
all right, so once you get the column back in, what you want to do is you want to slide your steering coupler up right there. Okay, so I mark it before I pull it off, just to ease in installation. So there's the bolt. It's a 14 millimeter bolt. Then you got the two 12 millimeter bolts at the back of the column, and we have the two 12 millimeter nuts right there. So once we get it back in, we're going to go ahead and tighten those 4 up and tighten up the steering shaft. Now we need to start hooking up all of the wiring and get this thing wrapped up. Now this is the one of the wires I was talking about that you have to disconnect before you drop the column down, because this pulls. And now we just need to make sure that we get everything hooked up properly. All right, so what you want to do is you want to go ahead and start hooking stuff up in a way that you don't forget. So we're going to start over here on this side, and I like to leave things not undone. So this row of wires here, I've got everything hooked up, and now we have this wire here. So this gets hooked on there. Let me go ahead and click that in. Now this wire, earlier I didn't show this, but this wire that we disconnected. So this is, it has a blue lock in it. So you have to pop the lock out before you can disconnect the connector. And there it's in. Because you can't disconnect this connector with that blue lock in there. So now that we've got this, actually, we need to, we'll hook this up last. All right, these wires. All right, so this harness here, it comes up like this. Let's go ahead and take the key out of there. So drop the column down. So this harness actually comes up here. Okay, here we go. All right, so that clips on there. That plugs in there. And there we go. So there's those wires. Ugh. Now we can go ahead and do that. We can leave this unhooked. So now, clip that clip in. Work your way through the harness. So we're starting here. We're connecting this, hooking this clip up. Because what happens is you connect the connector and then you can't see certain wires and things don't get connected. So this right here, you're just going to push it and it locks itself in place. So that goes there. All right, we're going to come up here. That goes there. That goes there. Ignition switch is already plugged in. So that just leaves this power wire here. For the motor. Now that's connected. Now everything should be connected. We should be able to connect the battery, start the vehicle, and make sure everything is okay. Now we still have the DLC to plug in, and we still have this stuff right here. All right, now we're gonna come over here. We're gonna go ahead and connect the battery. Like I said, the battery is just a precaution. You don't have to connect the battery. You don't have to disconnect the battery, but it would be a very costly thing if you did not disconnect the battery and the airbags went off. So now, should be able to start this. And now, turn the steering wheel. No more noise. So now we just need to put covers back on and give her a nice test drive. We got to put this vent back up in here. You're not going to be able to see up there. I can barely see. So we got to get this. All right, once you get it in there, if you look from underneath, you can see it. So now we're going to have a little bolt that's got a Phillips head. There we go. And now we need to start putting covers back on. And we're going to go ahead and put this guy in. Actually, leave that down. So now this goes up and over the key right there, the lock cylinder. You also have to connect this all the way back here. Okay. So you're going to have your so now we got to start the car because we have to be able to turn the steering wheel to get to the side bolts. We'll turn it that way. And we can come right through here. Okay. And now we can turn it this way. And we can put this bolt in. Or screw, actually. Okay. Now we're good. Everything is connected. So now we can turn this off. Lock the steering wheel in place. Make sure our bolt's in. Alright, and now we need to put this guy back on first. And that is these 10 millis. We get that on and get that all snapped in. We're going to go ahead and slide this in. Okay. We're going to have this guy here, which is for your OBD2 port right there and your fuses. Pop that in. And now we are done. So now it's time to close the hood and go for a test drive. So now I'm pretty sure that you're happy you found this video because it's not that difficult. All you need is a few tools, disconnect the battery. It's not that difficult, even if you just drop the column on the floor and do it. This is the first time I've ever taken the column out, and I only did it for video purposes. It also makes it easier to clean up the residual rubber that's in there. So it's not super hard. In the car, you have less room. And if you've never done it before, it could be a little tricky because you're not exactly sure what you're doing, but it's doable. I always do it in the car. So I'm happy I helped you with this video, and or maybe you saw this video and you said, oh no, that's not for me. But hey, at least you knew that going in. So Thanks for watching the video. Drop a comment down below and let me know if this is something that you've done before or if you experienced this and now you know how to fix it. See you guys next time.